What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Scoop with Coop. I'm Coop. How y'all doing out there? So, this is the review of Real Housewives of Atlanta, episode 5, 6, one of them. I'll have the correct one in the title. But anyway, the whole episode, some parts were good, some parts were just like filler parts. So we're just going to talk about the good parts. So let's start off with Phaedra and Apollo. So Phaedra and Apollo double dates with Kenya and Walter. So soon as Kenya got there, she was like, she had her eye on Apollo. We all know Apollo is nice to look at. Apollo is fine, like she said. But you have your man sitting right here, and this man's wife sitting right here, who is supposedly you trying to befriend, and you flirt with her husband, and she not doing it discreetly. You could clearly tell she was flirting with Apollo. She was swinging the hair and really, yeah. No, like Phaedra said, pump your brakes. So her and Apollo, well, no, Phaedra wasn't feeling it, right? She should. She had the right not to feel Kenya flirting with Apollo. No ma'am, no ma'am. So Apollo and Phaedra starts talking to Kenya about their fitness video, because Kenya has a production company. She's done, I guess they're straight to DVD movies. But she never did, fitness, but they want to see if she can do that for them. And Apollo tells her his plan, and she's like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, we could see what we could do, but she was still flirting with him. So then they met up at the go-kart place. So they get in a go-kart, and Kenya is just like, she turned into crazy lady, like, yes, let's go, all right, yeah. Wait a minute, Kenya. Pump your brakes. But Phaedra was like, oh, wait a minute, calm down. Yes, she needed to calm down because she was doing the most. And you could tell she's like very competitive and very adventurous, which is nothing's wrong with that. But she was just taking it to another level, like crazy lady, okay? But yeah. So Nene and Greg goes to meet with Cynthia and Peter at their house. And so when they get there, they just talking about the Anguilla trip that they planned, because since they went to Africa, they want to make a trip, go on a trip with everybody every year. But this year they want to do something different and make it a couples trip, since, everybody has a man. Actually, you know what? Everybody's married except Candy and Kenya. So you know what? All right. It is turning out to be Real Housewives. So anyway, so they talk about the trip, and Cynthia tell her, I want to invite everybody. I want to invite Apollo and Phaedra, Candy and Todd, and then she said, I want to invite Kim and Croy. And of course, Nene had something to say, like, oh, really? Do you really want to invite Kim? She was like, all right, if you want to invite Kim. Well, we all know Nene is not happy about it. So they were talking, and then they started talking about how Greg and Nene was doing, and Nene just started giggling and stuff. And Cynthia was like, well, how far you live from Nene, Greg? He was like, 7.3 minutes. I'm like, okay, somebody's been timing it. And they said they are happier now. They don't argue or whatever, because, they got divorced. But then now they're getting back together, but they're at a better place. And I guess whatever floats your boat, but yes. Really? Stop sniffing me. Okay. So then we go to Portia. So Portia, 6 months ago from when they were taping, she had a miscarriage because of fibroids. So, she had a miscarriage, and then, they took all the fibroids out, and no, now she wants to see if she can have, a baby. So she goes to the OBGYN, and her husband, what is her husband's name? I forgot. But her and her husband were talking, and we all know that Portia is not the brightest star in the sky. She kind of, but she was talking about some yams that she wants to eat or to help with the pregnancy. Then she said she wants to have twins. She wants to have 2 sets of twins. So she can only be pregnant twice instead of going through, because she said she wants 4 kids, 4 or 5, instead of going through each, having one by one by one by one. So twins run in her family, and they also run in her husband's family. So when they were telling the doctor that, the doctor was like, slow your roll. Let's do this one. Let's get the first baby first, and then we can, if you're gonna have twins, then it'll come. But with all your complications, let's just focus on the first baby. So yes, let's focus on that. So then then what happened? Candy and Cynthia met for lunch, and I knew they were at the daiquiri factory when they showed it. And so they were at the daiquiri factory, and Cynthia wants to talk to Candy about asking Kim about going on a trip. And then she said, she hasn't talked to Kim, but she, she'll ask her. So then she brought up, Nene. And Candy was like, she think Nene has motives when she befriends someone. Like, they can benefit her, do something for her. And I don't know, I don't really see that about Nene. Of course, we all know Nene can be, a bulldog, and she'll bite your neck off if she have to. But I don't see her, befriending somebody because they can do something for her. Because, her and Cynthia friends, what is Cynthia doing for Nene? Nothing that I see. But, Candy and Nene never been on a good, friendly, basis anyway. So Cynthia, of course, took up for her friend. And she was like, no, I just think y'all just start off bad and, just taking up for her friend. Which, that's a good friend. You're going to take up for your friend. But that was that. So, Portia, we all know Portia is the granddaughter of Hosea Williams. And, here in Atlanta, that's a big name because he does a lot for the community and the homeless. So she wants to meet with Nene and Cynthia because, Cynthia has the Bailey agency and, she tries to groom models. And Nene has, the Battered Women organization. So she's all about, if they're doing something in the community, she wants to bring them on board, to help with campaigning for Hosea Williams. So she started talking about, she wants them to do a PSA about, Hosea Williams. And she's like, it's just not on Thanksgiving, but it's 265 days a year. What calendar is she looking at? And Nene was like, what? We all was like, what? Because Portia, like I said, Portia is not the brightest star in the sky. So, Jesus, help the children. But anyway, so they started talking about Kenya. Portia was like, Kenya came to her function, her charity function, and she started, she was acting a little salty. And Cynthia was like, I'm glad it wasn't just me. She act like this was somebody else. So, they just started talking about her, and Nene was like, I'm a good judge of character. And, I would just, see her out, feel her out, see how she is. So, yeah, I'm just going to see what she's about. Lord, Nene, Come on now. Then at the end, they all met for lunch or brunch to discuss the Anguilla trip. So Cynthia and Phaedra were the first ones to get to the restaurant. So Phaedra wants to bring Kenya a peace offering. Usually people bring you, some roses, some kind of flowers, but we all know Phaedra does things on a grand scale. So she bought Kenya a tree. This thing was huge. Like, it was tall. Like, come on, Phaedra. We all know you lied about what you said about Cynthia, but good Lord, you got to bring the woman a tree. But anyway, she was like, it was brought to my attention. Phaedra, it was not brought to your attention. Like, somebody just told you the other day, Cynthia confronted you about this. So how was it just brought to your attention? But anywho, she apologized to Cynthia by, saying she didn't really, well, she did kind of say, well, I did say, something. But, I just wanted to apologize. I just want to be, on good terms again. And Cynthia did accept her apology. But, she said she still got her eye on Phaedra. Yes, ma'am. she is a lawyer. So she can, she can argue her case. So then, all the ladies started showing up. Candy came and she told them, she's like, I invited Kenya. And Cynthia was like, really? You just invited Kenya to our brunch? But anyway, Kenya came there. She was cordial. She said hey to Phaedra and gave air kisses to everyone. So she didn't want to mess up their makeup. And so Nene came, and then Kim actually came to the brunch. But she could have really stayed home because Kim was like, yeah, I really want to go because I went to Anguilla last year. It was beautiful. And yes, I do want to go. And everybody was like, oh, okay, yeah. Then she started coming up with excuses. But I have to make clear with my doctor to make sure if I can go out of the country. I thought we were staying in the country. If you're 28 weeks, then you're 30, 31, 32. My water might break. I'm going to go over to Anguilla, have my baby, and then they going to keep it. And then Kim, whoa, she was just rattling off excuses like, for real, for real. And then everybody got upset because Kim gave them these dates that they can work with, and everybody rearranged their schedule because, these women have lives. Candy was going to get honored at ASCAP to get, an award for writing. People had stuff to do. And so, of course, I would be upset if I rearranged my schedule for one particular person and they ain't going. Of course. So all the ladies started saying, no, Phaedra started off. She was like, we're starting to think that you don't have room for your friends anymore. And she just came out and said, I don't. I got married, had a baby, I'm pregnant now, so I don't have time for you. I mean, but, okay, you got married, you got kids, but, invite your friends over if you can't go out or something like that. She just flat out like, sure, I don't got time for y'all heifers. But anyway, she was like, and as for you, Candy was like, wait, what do you mean as for me? She was like, if I meet you at the nail salon, don't come an hour late. She was like, it's not just that. You leave early for everything, which Candy is right. As we see, Kim left for everything. Whenever she came to one of their events, she left early. So, and then Nene had to say her piece. She was like, she just went off on Candy. I mean, not Candy, but Kim. And Kim was like, you know what? I had enough. I'm tired of this. So she takes off her mic and she's like, I'm done with this. And I guess I don't know if she knew at the time she was going to get a spinoff or what. But she was like, I'm done. I'm through with this. She goes outside, want to push the cameraman. And then Croy coming. Oh, I just say, just Kim, go do your thing. If you don't have time for these ladies, go do your own thing and just spare everyone, all of them trying to see, is Kim coming? We know she's not coming. What's she gonna do? But I think it was wrong of her to tell them a certain dates and then can't go after they've rearranged their schedule. I mean, mind you, she is pregnant, but still, if you're gonna tell somebody, okay, block off these dates, I can go on these dates, pregnant or not, and you don't go, of course people gonna be upset. But anywho, okay, so that was my review of Housewives. I can't wait to see next week when they actually go on to Anguilla and see the Kenya and Apollo flirting. Phaedra better say something. You better say something. But yeah, so that's the review. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Please rate, please comment at the bottom, and follow me on Twitter at ScoopWithCoop and Instagram at ScoopWithCoop. And God bless. Bye-bye.